Today I'm going to give you a very simple equation about content versus production value and when to utilize each. So the very first question might be, what do you mean by content versus production value? So content is the information inside of the video, inside of the container, whatever that container might be, whether that's a podcast, whether that's a video, an email, some sort of teaching or information sharing mechanism. I'm going to use video because I feel like video is the most powerful, and that's what I do. That's what I utilize. I feel like video is one of the most powerful content delivery systems that we have. And so we're going to utilize video in this example, but this could apply to any sort of container with information that you're going to share. So I've drawn this graph, but first let me explain it. So when we think about content, we want to think about the information that we're sharing. When we think about production value, we want to think about the way that we are sharing it. So the very first thing that we want to utilize and we want to recognize is that content is king. This is a phrase that comes out of film and out of production. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a conversation that was often going back and forth about what was more important, content or the quality of the media, meaning the production value, meaning like the information inside of the video or the powerful visuals, the powerful emotions that are attracted by the production value. And one of this argument that kept kind of going back and forth was, well, no, is content more important? Is production value more important? And when I think about this, I think of content being king, meaning that is the very first level that we always think about. We want to think about the content inside of the container, inside of the video in this instance, and then we want to think about the production value. So if we think about the content that we have, say, for example, we're thinking about all the information that exists around coaching. There can be so much information. It could fill volumes and volumes, so many videos. We could talk for hours about it. And if we think about all the knowledge, even just the knowledge that we individually possess, that we share, if we were just kind of spray that all out there and not have a way that it was organized, that would be the content. Now, the production value is the way that content is shared. So you can have very high production value, meaning that it's very clearly shared, but very low content, meaning that the information that's shared really isn't very transformational, doesn't give a lot of change or a lot of value. And I like to think about this as like one of those popcorn movies. You might go see it once. You might like to sit and watch it and say, oh, that was interesting. All right, I'm done. I'm finished watching that. And if somebody says, have you seen this movie? You'd say, sure, I saw that movie. It was great. We saw it once. It's just kind of a popcorn movie. Lots of flashes, lots of explosions, lots of things happening, but it's not really a storyline, not really something that is going to carry a message into your heart, into your mind, transform you, change you in a way. Now, the opposite could be true. It could have something that is so powerful. We could have something that has amazing content, has so much, somebody who has so much knowledge and so much information, but it's not shared in a way that it's even consumable for us. So content is the information that you share. Production value is the way that you share it. So if I think about production value, you can share something very simply in a sentence, in a picture. So let's use my whiteboard for an example. So if I were to take and draw a very simple picture, let's say it's a person walking across a bridge. There are these steps, and over here they're sad, and over here they're happy. So you may have seen a drawing like this before. This is the content. Now, the production value isn't great, but it gets the content across in a very simple way, in a very easy way to explain. So we know that there are going to be 4 steps to get us from sad to happy over here. Now, production value is the next step. Maybe I'm a really great artist and I can make this picture look really great. Maybe I show visuals in a video so that it makes this visually more impressive, more appealing. It has music, it has graphics, it has all of this information. That is powerful because it's going to build on the emotion. But if the content is not there, if the storyline is not there well enough, then it doesn't matter how much production value we put into it because it doesn't have a good enough storyline. So when we think about this, we think content is king, but then we want to up the production value as much as possible within our budget, within the realms of what we have going on. So on our scale of content and production value, if we don't have very good content, say it's over here, and this is a scale of 100, right? This is a scale of 100 on the production value. So if our content is down here at 1, but we have really high production value, so we're way up here on production value, but then we're way down here on content, that's kind of like one of those popcorn movies. On the flip side, say for example, you have something that has amazing content, but you have to sift through it. It's a book that's this thick, that's so thick, and it's got so many details and so much information. It's got so much content, but the production value, you have to sift through it yourself. You haven't been given the guide or the map. There's not enough of a storyline. There's not something that carries you through, but it's got so much information. That's basically like Google. Like there's so much information in the internet. There's so much knowledge that can be found there. But if nobody sifts through it and presents it in a way that makes sense, it's not shared in a way that's it's even consumable for us. So we don't want to be up here where there's tons of production value, but no content. But we don't want to be over here where there's no content, where there's so much content, but no production value. We want to stick to right here in the center. In fact, if I were to redraw this, I would think of it more like a grid and less like a scale. So if we think about it like a grid, there are elements on here that are powerful, right? Low content, low production value. High content, low production value. High production value, low content. High production value, high content. But here in the center, we've got high production value and we've got high content, that we have something that is really powerful. So we can, if we want to, have high content, high production value, but chances are that's going to be a little bit more expensive. We can have low content, low production value. That's not going to be consumable. We can have high content, but low production value, and people will get some transformation with that, but not nearly as much as if we're here and here. And here in this quadrant, we can have really high production value, but really low content, not very powerful. So I would say we want to avoid this quadrant completely, right? And this quadrant, I don't think we want to go there either, because high production value, but really low content isn't going to get us transformation. But anywhere here in these boxes, that's where we want to be. And we want to start really in the center. We want to avoid these two bottom quadrants and start very here in the center, where we have good content and decent production value. So this is how I want you to think about content and production value as you're moving forward with your videos, podcasts, emails, whatever it might be. We have a baseline minimum level of production value, and then we can go up from there in value of content and in value of production value. If you'd like to up-level your production value and the way that you're delivering your content, I'd invite you to join me inside Lights, Camera, Action, where we turn on all the lights inside of your brain so that we can see everything that's going on. We focus the camera of your mind to where you want to go with your business and the things that you're operating, and then we take action. We're focused on getting there and doing things inside of the program. Join me inside Lights, Camera, Action.